But the miracle of Acts 2 that I see that really sticks out to me is that in verse 7 of Acts 2, after the Spirit has come in tongues of fire, it says in verse 7, they were amazed and astonished, saying, are not all these who are speaking Galileans? And it says, how is it that we hear each of us in his own native language? How are Parthians and Medes and Elamites and residents of Mesopotamia and Judea and Cappadocia and Pontus and Asia and Phrygia and Pamphylia and Egypt and parts of Libya, how are these people, both Jews and proselytes, Cretans and Arabs, we hear them telling in our own tongues the mighty works of God? The Holy Spirit was poured out not just so that you can speak in an unknown language, your mind is unfruitful, but your spirit's talking to God, praying the perfect will of God. That's not the only manifestation of tongues. Tongues is so that you can go to somebody who does not look like you, who's from a different culture than you, maybe from a different country than you, from a different worldview than you. You're Republican and they're a Democrat, and the Holy Spirit gives you unction to have a hard conversation with them, and you can speak it in a language that they can understand. The power of the Holy Spirit is to settle disputes, to comfort us, to bring us into unity and oneness in the knowledge of God. I was evangelizing in downtown Indy one time, and I had a 2-hour conversation with a Hispanic man who told me that his kidneys had failed, and the doctor told him that he had 3 days to live. We talked for 2 hours, and I remember at some point during the conversation, I said to him, do you have a Bible? He says, yeah, I got one. In fact, somebody just gave it to me. But he says, here, you can have it because I can't read in English. And I was like, oh, man, that's kind of you. Well, I got plenty of Bibles, but I'll give it out to somebody. And we keep talking, and I end up laying hands on him and praying. And as I'm praying, he says, ooh, I feel heat. I feel heat coming into my body. It was amazing. It was a powerful encounter. And inside the Bible were 2 tickets to a Hillsong concert. I was talking to him outside the stadium. In the stadium, Hillsong was worshiping. And I said, oh, dude, did you know there's 2 free tickets in here? He says, yeah, but I'm not into all that. You can go in there. And so I'm like, wow, cool. Impromptu Hillsong concert, I'm in. So I go in, and I'm like so excited. And so I take a selfie, and I post on Facebook about this awesome 2-hour conversation, led the guy to the Lord, prayed for him. I think he may have been healed. And somebody comments who does homeless ministry. He was homeless. A friend of mine comments and says, JT, I didn't know you speak Spanish. I said, I don't. She goes, well, I was the one who drove him to the doctor where the doctor said he had 2 days to live, and I've known him for 2 years. He doesn't speak a lick of English. We talked for 2 hours in what sounded like English to me. So either I sounded like Espanol to him, I don't know, but the Holy Spirit was doing something. I got the gift of tongues. What we need to settle the disputes in our nation today is an outpouring of the Holy Spirit that's not just coming from our Adamic nature, our worldview, our cultural traditions and preferences, but something from heaven, a language from heaven that settles the disputes and helps us to understand one another.